Happy Saturday, Facebook. It is me, Jarima from Birth into Books. I am so excited because this Saturday we get an opportunity to introduce you to an amazing children's author. And so, as I've been advertising this week, today I get the opportunity to interview JaNay Brown Wood. And I'm super excited about when we get a chance to start this conversation, because just the opportunity to be able to meet someone who's in the literary world is such an important aspect, I think, to our community. I am currently welcome you all into the front row. I'm going to first introduce like what the front row is. So the front row is an opportunity for me to monthly interview authors who are in the field, to allow them to be able to not only share their story about how they became authors and how they started to generate their writings, but also for you to ask questions. So the front row is truly a conversation. Yes, we have our scripted questions that we're going to ask as an organization to each author. However, the beauty of Facebook Live is that you're able to write at the bottom any comments, any suggestions, any questions you have yourself, and that can be a part of the conversation as well. And so again, we're going to start exactly at 12 o'clock, but I wanted to give this opportunity to let people to come in, say hello if you see me. Hopefully your Saturday is going great. And then once JaNay is online, she's going to be added in. And again, you can listen in on our conversation, ask any questions that you have. Also, provide us any suggestions or things that you have as well. I see that she's online now, so we're going to get started. Again, the front row is an opportunity for you to chime into our conversations. But again, if you have any questions or you have any things that you would like to add to the conversation, just key them in below. So let's go ahead and get started. Hi, JaNay.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm well. I'm well. How about you?
I'm doing great, great, great. So first,
Good.
this is just wonderful. I actually get to meet you for the first time, and vice versa.
Hi.
And
Yeah, it's a pleasure.
yeah, so I was just sharing. So I always do like an intro about like what this is, and so a part of our organization, Burst into Books, um, we do monthly interviews with people in the literary field, just so people can get opportunity to um, figure out how people are in the writing industry. So even now, like people are writing down comments, I'm reading them below, and just kind of sharing how and want to know like how you were able to join and get a part of the literary world. So again, if you have any questions, anything that you want to add to the conversation, write it below. But like I was saying, JaNay, that since it's Facebook Live, the cool thing is that I have my own questions, but even now I see people are asking questions. So it's really an interactive conversation. Um,
Sure.
and then once we get towards the end, we'll be able to learn more about how to keep in contact with you. So I do this once a month. So this is definitely a pleasure for me and my organization, for people to get to meet people that they may not normally be able to meet. So this is
Sure. Yeah,
a
that
great
sounds awesome.
conversation. So the cool thing is I look back and I was like, how did I find out about JaNay, right? So I remember looking at uh, um, I don't know what keeps going. She keeps coming in and out. We'll wait for her to add back into the conversation. Really, Laura? She should.
I'm sorry. It cut out, so I didn't catch all of that. I apologize. It's
Uh,
cutting out for some reason.
yeah, I was like, she went away. I was just saying that I was trying to look back on how I even got connected with you. And I remember, because I'm always like reading literary magazines or going to book fairs and all of that. And it was a magazine that I read, and it was like the top 15 children's books, right? And and I can't even think back to, I think it was like a Chicago magazine. And so when
Oh,
I
cool.
Yes, when I was looking through it, and I've really been like cold emailing and calling everyone. Like people suggest people to me all the time, but also I'm like, hey, if they leave their email or their name, I'm like, let me see if I can find them. So I know with JaNay, that was the way that I was able to connect with her. It's just like, you know why I keep going in and out?
I don't know why.
Hmm.
It's done it several times, so I'm not quite sure why.
Yeah. Well,
It
I'll
wasn't doing this.
yesterday. Yeah. So I'll just, if for whatever reason it does, I'll just add you back in.
Okay.
But I was saying that I just saw you and I was like, let me reach out to her. And I'm just so grateful that you even responded back and was like,
Of
sure,
course.
I'll do it.
Yeah.
So we'll start and get right into it. And I'll have some questions that are below that I'll ask as well. So the
Sure.
first one, like, what's your background? Like, where are you from? Just a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, sure. So, I was actually born in Southern California in Compton, and
Okay.
then when I was super young, I think maybe 3 months old, we moved to Fresno,
Okay.
California, which is the Central Valley in California. And then I was raised there. A lot of my family is in Fresno. And then after I finished high school, I moved back to Southern California and got my degree from UCLA in psychology.
Okay.
And so yeah, so I'm a Cali girl through and through, and currently I live in the Sacramento area. And so yeah, that's a little bit about kind of my background and where I'm from.
Cool. So what led you, and that was actually my first question, but it was a question Laura posed. What was your pathway to becoming an author? So like what led you to writing your books? I know you currently have two books, correct? Yeah,
Two
so
out.
yeah, two out. So what led you to becoming an author?
I always knew that I enjoyed writing. When I was in elementary school, it was something I looked forward to. I was encouraged by my teachers. Like, for example, my sixth grade teacher made a prediction when I was graduating from sixth grade, when I was being promoted. She made a prediction that said, best-selling author, JaNay Brown. This was
Okay.
way, way long time ago. So
Yeah.
encouragement like that just continue to push me forward, push forward a passion that I already knew I had. So I just kept writing, kept coming up with fun ideas and stories. I started keeping a notebook that
Okay.
had all different stories, and I would recommend people who are interested in writing, especially for children, have
Mhm.
something that you can capture your um your stories and your thoughts in, so you can go back to them. So I had this notebook, and then I just told myself, you know what, I'm going to try to do this for real.
Mhm.
And then I started writing with the thought of trying to get it published.
Okay.
And I have to be honest, it's not an easy thing. It takes perseverance and having a thick skin, being used to rejection, because
Mhm.
rejection is like a key piece of it.
Mhm.
So I started writing my manuscripts. I joined an organization called SCBWI, which is the Society for Children's Book Writers and
Yeah.
Illustrators.
Yeah.
It's a great organization. I promise they didn't do not pay me to say this, but it's a great organization,
Yeah.
and it's just full of different resources and opportunities for people who want to write for children or illustrate for children.
Right.
So I joined that, and then I became part of a critique group, which I actually still work with a group of wonderful writers who have become like family, basically.
Okay.
And then I just kept pushing through, persevering, not letting the no's stop me. And then it basically took 8 years from the writing down the idea of Imani's Moon in that notebook that I said I had. Took 8 years from that idea to actually holding the published book in my hand.
Wow.
So that was sort of my pathway,
Yeah.
persevering, continuing to write, honing my craft, learning as much about writing as I could. During that time, I also took some classes at community college just to learn about writing fiction and poetry. I would go to conferences. I would read books. It was really about learning the craft of writing for children while I was improving my manuscripts. And yeah, I think that was sort of
Yeah.
my path. It wasn't an easy one,
Yeah.
and I'm still learning. I'm still on this path. So yeah.
That's great. I know that even as I am meeting more authors and learning, like about the different, not learning about the different genres, like, but how to write for the different genres, like just learning that
Yeah.
it's such a skill. And I mean, especially with children's books, like, my son is 7. And so when I even have been starting to talk to authors and they're like, yeah, just the number of words on a page and like the pictures and all of that. Like I just
Yeah.
become more aware of that as we're looking at books. I'm like, wow, it really is a craft you have to learn. You would think it's
Mhm.
easy, like, oh, let me just draw some pictures and write a story, but
Mhm.
it's very much so a skill that you need to learn.
Yeah. And you're right, like the different genres call for different things.
Yeah,
And people look at picture books and I think sometimes they assume, oh, it's for kids. It's just a few words. It should be easy. And it is difficult. It takes
definitely.
a lot of time, a lot of revision, a lot of being careful with the word choice that you use, making sure you're not you're you're showing as opposed to telling. Like there's
Mhm.
all these different
Mhm.
things that you want to do to make sure you write a strong piece. And I just have to again emphasize the importance of revising. None of my work, none of the books that I've written and the ones that'll be coming out, none of them are I wrote one time and is ready to go. It took revising and looking at it and sharing it with my critique group and all of that sort of stuff to really help improve it. So
Got you.
yeah, it's a
Um,
process. I
yeah,
guess that's what I'm saying. It's a process.
it definitely is. I see another question by Laura. I think it leads into my second one, which is your two stories, right? You have
Yeah.
Imani's Moon and
Mhm.
Grandma's Tiny House. So how was it just a matter of like just journaling those stories, or are they based on true experiences? Or like what led you to write those, both of those being your first two books?
Sure. The cool thing about they're both in that notebook that I said I have. They're both in there in the earliest drafts. Imani's Moon kind of was a story that, no pun intended, jumped into my head out of, nowhere. And I just Imani's Moon actually started off, it was a young boy, and he was jumping, and he had all these different animals that were telling him he couldn't do it. And my older sister had said, "Hey, the jumping kind of makes me think of, the Maasai people." It was actually her idea, like the Maasai people. And then I said, "Yeah," because we had watched a documentary on them. And so then that prompted me to do more research and learn more about the Maasai, and it just fit so well.
Yeah.
So then the revising, like I said, the process, the
Hmm.
revising and learning more about it and continuing to edit it, is how Imani's Moon sort of solidified as the story it was. So
Hmm.
that one was just an inspiration that came. And then, like I said, talking with my sister, helping me fine tune that. Grandma's Tiny House is directly
Hmm.
inspired by my family. My dad has many, many siblings.
Okay.
I mean, we're talking about like lots. What is, I think they're 13,
Wow.
13 total at one
Yeah.
point. So a lot. And my grandma had a small house, and
Okay.
so we would go over her house for Thanksgiving. So we will all pile in that house. We will find spots to be, eating and just be enjoying each other's company and just reveling in being with family. And that was one of my favorite holidays when we would go over there. So that is what inspired Grandma's Tiny House.
Yeah.
And my background, I should also say, is in early childhood education and
Okay.
child development.
Okay.
So I just I'm there I just am a teacher through
Yeah.
and through.
Yeah. Me
So I
too.
can't help it. Like I can't shake it.
You're right.
I just be teaching. Yeah, and so like the number concept piece just came through fluidly with that, and like the volume of all the family members fitting into this space. So it was pulled from my actual family history, family experiences, and then kind of infused with the counting too to help support budding counters, right? Children who are learning, especially for beyond 10,
Mhm.
11, 12, 13, 14. Those are kind of challenging.
Yeah.
Well, 11, 12, 13, then 14, 15, So that's why I wanted to make sure I included those in that book. So yeah, that's a little bit about how the inspiration
Yeah.
came from that one.
Yeah. And it goes perfect with the next question posed by Laura. I wanted to know, was your book self-published, or did you actually go through a published company? Because I've met people who do both, right? Who've done their
Yeah.
own publishing, but then also went through the process of like submitting their books over and over again. And so just
Yeah.
want to know, like, was yours published by yourself, like through your own publishing, or did you go through an actual publishing company?
Yeah, so my books are traditionally published, meaning through a publishing company, and it's Charles Bridge, who I just adore Charles
Mm.
Bridge and the editor that I work with there. They're just a wonderful publishing house. So that means that I sent out my manuscripts and got a bunch of rejections, and then eventually got a publication. But I can tell you the whole story with that one. It actually
Yeah.
started with Imani's Moon. One of the ladies, her name was Rosie, in my critique group, had shared that there was this contest called the Children's Book of the Year, I think it was, contest through the National Association of Elementary School Principals.
Okay.
And so there's this contest. They were looking for manuscripts, and you could submit your manuscript for this contest. And the prize was a publishing contract
Oh wow.
with Charlesbridge, yeah, through one of their imprints. So I was like, why not? Let me just try it
Right.
out. So I sent it. Yeah, so I sent it, and I ended up winning that contest. That's why
Wow.
Imani's Moon, if you look on it, it has, actually, I have a, let me see if I could show you here. Like right here, you can see the
Yeah.
little medallion for that award. And so I got that publishing contract through that award. And then working with the wonderful editor that I had, I said, "Hey, I have another. Can I send
Mm-hmm.
it your way?" He said, "Okay, yeah." So that's how I sent Grandma's Tiny House to her.
Okay.
And then she was interested in that one as well. So both of my books are traditionally published. And I actually have two more books coming out pretty
Oh
soon. This is actually the first time I've shared this publicly, but
yeah.
I have contracts for two more books coming out. Yeah. So, it'll be fun to see where it goes from here. But
Yeah.
they are all traditionally published.
Okay. Wow. And so
Mhm.
was it I know so you really I think hit the money with like winning that contest and like the editor, but
Yeah.
was it like a challenge? Because I've met people who've said like, man, I mean, I know you said it took 8 years, but I don't think necessarily it was because of the publishing side, but was it huge challenges before the contract and before the the winning the contest to get it published to even see someone even look at your book?
Yeah. Oh, it is definitely a challenge. It is a challenge, and it's a process. So like the 8 years that I said that it took for me to get Imani's Moon published, that was, revising and writing and getting it right. But that also included sending out to different publishing houses
Mm-hmm.
and getting rejections and not letting that stop me. I would get a bunch of rejections. I would keep them all because that told me you're sending it out. You're doing something. This is progress. Like
Mm-hmm.
getting all these no's doesn't feel like progress, but it is. It means that you're sending it out. So then I would just go back and continue to revise. And that I think helped me practice
Yeah.
too. Practice with getting the words just right. So then from there, I found this contest and sent it out that way. So it is hard. It's
Yeah.
not easy. And I think sometimes people, they get the rejections and they take them to heart and they might decide, you know what, I'm going to stop, or maybe I will self-publish, which self-publishing is, a great thing for those who choose to do it that way as well. But I told myself I wanted to go the traditional route. I wanted to go through a publishing house. So it is a process. And even now, still, as I'm writing things, I have a wonderful agent. I adore her so much. Have a wonderful agent, but I mean, we send stuff out and you still get rejections, even
Yeah.
with an agent. So you
Yeah.
you can't let that stop you. You gotta just keep pushing forward.
Yeah. What would you say, or who would you say are some of the authors and people who've influenced your writing? I know you said like you've always loved to write, but do you also love to read? And are there like authors that like, man, their style of writing or just what their topics were, or just these are people that I look up to as far as authors?
Yeah, whew, that's a long list. Let me start. I'll start off with when I was younger. My dad read so much Dr. Seuss, and I know Dr. Seuss nowadays is pretty controversial. I
Mhm.
understand, but it was a part of my childhood,
Yeah.
and I just think about my dad and my mom reading Dr. Seuss to me, which sort of feel like helped me internalize poetry and
Mhm.
cadence and rhythm, which a lot of times when I write, it comes out in poem. And so I would say like Dr. Seuss is one that very much ins inspired me and influenced me. But nowadays, I would say work from authors such as Miranda Paul. She does really, really great things, and I'm a huge fan of her, and she's so super supportive. But I look at some of these YA authors as well, like Angie Thomas and The Hate You Give.
Yeah.
Love that work,
Yeah.
right? A super important work. And then there are poets as well, like Nikki Grimes and
Mm,
Kwame Alexander. So these are some like the big names that I look up
yeah,
to, and
yeah.
I'm taking notes on. I'm like, okay, I see what you're doing there. So those are some of the authors that very much inspire me as well. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And
And
that's just off the top of my head. I'm sure I could come
yeah,
up with like
yeah,
a
I'm
bunch
sure.
more off the top of my head.
Sure. And I think just even with you saying like being an educator, me being an educator myself and like having children, like what would you share about have you been able to just be able to instill that love of reading to your children and are they like really big about reading as well or
You're saying my own children or
yeah,
children in general?
your own children?
Yeah, so I have one daughter, her name is Vivian, and she's 2 years old, and
Okay.
she loves reading, but we made it a part of the routine from the beginning. Like
Hmm.
even when she was in womb, reading, right? I know that sounds silly, but
Yeah.
during the fetal stage, children begin to have some auditory capacities, so they come out already having familiarity with their mother's voice. So reading in that way, and then when she was born, basically every night I would try to read to her. Um, Even novels. I would read her novels. She's this itty bitty infant in my arms, and I would be reading her novels. We read like Rats of Nim and
Mm,
some work by Grace Lynn. So we instilled this routine. And so, still to this day, every night, our routine is, we brush our teeth, we lay down. I ask her, which book do you want to read? And we read that book, and she just loves reading. And so I'm excited about that because you also see it in her language.
yeah.
Her language is very developed, and
Mm,
she's 2, but she's got so many words and starting to put together sentences and can
yeah.
share her thoughts with us already. So I very much attribute that to the reading with her and just the talking with her. So
Yeah.
I would say, yeah, we're working hard to instill the love of reading. And I have to be honest with you, I actually didn't love reading myself when I was younger. I was not a fan.
Yeah.
My older sister, Erin, she could sit there and inhale books like nothing. But I was sort of reluctant. I didn't love reading. And it wasn't until I would say I became a older teenager
Mm.
that I started to get interested in reading. So I'm hoping to kind of bypass that with her and already get her interested early.
Yeah, yeah. The reason I asked that is because with our organization, we do monthly book club meetings, and so
Mm.
we start with that young group. Like, our first group is 6 month year olds all the way to 3 year olds, and
Yeah,
just a piece of that.
yeah,
Like, everyone's like, "What happens in that space?" I'm like, "But that's where it begins, right? Like them being
yeah,
able to hear the stories and feel the books and see,
yeah,
everything come to life and." Just being an educator myself, like the kids that I knew in my class, like I could right away tell if they love to read, right? Just the way
yeah.
they were able to articulate their thoughts, their writing was better, like
Mhm. Oh,
the
yes.
their attention to details. They're like, oh, this word means this, context clues, and so um,
Sure.
a lot of that like pleasure
Yeah,
reading translates into the classroom, and so just trying to
yeah,
always inspire like our babies in our organization to one day aspire to be authors themselves, but also
yeah.
for parents to understand like, man, that love for reading really starts from, like you said, the womb, like them being able to
Yep.
just hear your voice and you reading to them, like they are internalizing all of that. So
So, and something else I want to share too,
hmm,
when children are engaged in these reading sessions with their parents, it's a warm experience. It's a
yeah,
bond that they're building. They're sitting there in this positive space with their mom or their dad or their grandma, whoever it is that they're reading with. And so this is already creating this association of reading with love and happiness and warmth. And so you just want to continue to build on that while exposing them to literacy.
yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
wanted to, well, thank you for that. That was a great.
Yeah, you're doing great work. I say keep at it.
Thanks. One thing I wanted to, and you've already kind of shared some tips, but is there, as we're coming towards the end, like any tips you have for people who are aspiring to be authors themselves or writers themselves? I
Mm,
know you talked about a
mm,
journal, just about
yeah,
that tough skin, with the
yeah.
rejection, but like, is there any like additional tips you may give someone who's really aspiring to be an upcoming author?
Absolutely. And it's some of the things we kind of hit on already, but read. Like I know that sounds, oh, duh. No, I mean it. Like read. If there is a certain genre or type of book you want to write, go get familiar with that type of book. So I remember before when I decided I want to try to do this for real and get published, I would basically go live at Barnes and Noble. I would get handfuls of picture books. I would sit there on the ground and read them and study them. Books that I liked, books that I didn't like, analyze them. What is it about this book that I really, really enjoy? Why don't I like this one? What is sort of the format, the structure? So read as much as you can because that helps you then start to wrap your brain around, okay, what makes story arc, what makes narrative. So I would say read, 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 and then write, write, write. Someone has, I can't remember who said this, but I had heard a quote that said, you can't edit a blank page.
That's
So
cool.
and that stuck with me. I am
Yeah,
not taking credit for that because I did not say those wise words, but I've internalized them and
yeah,
I like to share it with others. You can't revise, you can't edit a blank page. So write, even if you're like, I don't know what I'm writing right now, doesn't matter. Get it down because from there, your story might emerge and then you get better direction. So I would say read, 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 write, 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 and then continue to familiarize yourself with the craft, learn narrative structure, learn it really, really well. And then once you do learn it, then you can decide whether you want to break free of it. Because, of course, there are some books that don't necessarily have the traditional narrative structure, but learn it before you break it so that
right.
you're doing that intentionally, right? And then just don't give up. Don't give up. I feel like I'm an example of don't give up because again, I can tell you I just received so many no's, but I couldn't let that stop me.
Mm,
So, as an author, as an up-and-coming author, don't let it stop you. Continue to send out, but also continue to revise that work and make sure, you're getting it as close to, perfect, or I don't want to say perfect, but as close to that finished draft as you can. Because then once it is picked up, you're going to continue to revise it some more with an editor. So you continue to strengthen that work. But don't let the nose stop you.
yeah.
Let the nose drive you. And
Mm,
again, think of it as I'm doing something, even if it's not right now a contract, but I'm doing something moving me closer to that goal. And don't stop. Keep going.
yeah, yeah. Thanks for those words.
Yeah, of
I know
course.
you said you like gave us a little hint to some upcoming things coming. So just
Yeah.
in closing, like, what's next for your career? Like, is being like writing these books? Is that where you want to stop, or do you foresee it becoming more?
It is just like a journey right now. It's a
Yeah,
ride. So I just want to keep writing and especially writing books so children of color can see themselves represented. I think that's so important.
yeah.
Um, so I'm going to continue writing. I'd like to expand into longer works as well, novels, middle grades,
Hmm.
continue to write poetry and picture books. But also, I know we're talking about sort of the author side of me, but
Yeah.
I wear other hats as well. So I'm
Yeah.
a educator, like I said, but I'm also doing some research related to diversity in children's books.
Mhm.
So that's what's next, kind of bringing all of those pieces together that are important to me in this um, goal of helping support children, especially, under-resourced children who might not, like I said, see themselves on the pages, helping them strengthen those literacy skills. Because if you don't have strong literacy skills, it's
Yeah.
going to be difficult.
It is.
So it starts young, just like what we said. It
Mhm.
starts young. And so that's what's next for me. Continuing to write, continuing to do research, and continuing to educate about the importance of literacy, and then finding ways to help support the community so that they can already be building that in their children. Not to say they're not doing this now, but continuing to support them in that. Yeah, I would say I don't know if that fully answers
Yeah.
your question. A lot is next, is I guess what I'm saying. A lot is next.
Cool. So, if someone wants to contact you or get some of your work or learn like what you're doing, like how could they reach you and follow you?
Yeah. So I have a website. It's my name. So it's www. Dot JaNayBrownwood.com.
Okay.
So all one word, all lowercase. You can go in there and see some of my books, learn about my books and other things that I'm doing. And there's a contact page there as well. And I try to be as responsive as I can to those. So people can email me there if they want to set up school visits or if they have questions about, publishing.
Hmm.
Um, they can email me through that page on my website.
Great, great, great. Well, thank you, JaNay, so much for taking this time to speak with me, and I look forward to one day meeting you in person and being able to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and thank you for reaching out to me.
Oh,
I appreciate that. And thanks for those of you who came on by and were listening. Like, hi, Auntie Bree and
yeah,
Kevin and Peggy. I see you guys. Laura, I don't know you, but I appreciate you coming
yeah.
through and listening to what I have to say.
Yes, thank you so much. So definitely, I'm going to post this on our site. I'm going to put in our website also your information so people know how to follow you. And
Please.
I
Mhm.
just I wish you all the best.
Thank you. And you too with your burst into books, right?
Yeah.
With
Uh-huh.
what you're doing, keep going and continue to contact me if there are ways I can support.
Cool. Thank you. Have a great rest of your day.
Okay. You too.
All right.
Bye-bye.